Even though I'm a proud uncle, I don't want kids myself. I was on the fence about it during my adolescence, but as the years passed, my wish to live without children solidified. In the past, people have tried to convince me to have kids, but I've never found their reasons particularly appealing or conclusive. Others told me, honestly and based on experience, how difficult parenting can be, and that I should think twice about it, which only strengthened my resolve. The decision not to have kids isn't received well by everyone. I'm lucky to have an understanding family, but I've also witnessed people getting condemned for their choice. The country I'm from, the Netherlands, is overall pretty accepting of people who wish to be voluntarily childless. But in many parts of the world, that's certainly not the case. On top of that, the internet is full of animosity toward the child-free. There's a great deal of shaming and blaming, ranging from ignorance and misunderstanding to outright spite toward those who don't conform to the dominant social norm. I've often struggled to understand, let alone explain or defend why I don't want children. At the same time, few life decisions have occupied my thoughts more than this question, which has followed me throughout my adult life, from dating and relationships to watching people around me, especially my friends and siblings, start families. But today, I think I can explain quite well why I don't want kids. Moreover, I believe I can make a strong case that choosing not to have children is not morally wrong and may, in some circumstances, even be the more ethical choice. In this essay, I want to share the reasons I've arrived at, after a great deal of thought, for not having children. Hopefully, they'll offer some insight and perhaps even help you work through your own thoughts and struggles on the subject. My name is Stefan. If you enjoy my work, you can subscribe to my newsletter on Substack. You can also support me on Patreon, and my books are available on Amazon. Thank you, and I hope you'll enjoy this video. Before we get into the reasons I don't want kids, let's explore some recurring criticisms and arguments that child-free people face. By the way, I'm using the term child-free for simplicity's sake. That doesn't mean I'm part of any child-free movement or community, because I'm not. Let's start with the "there's something wrong with you" accusations, which often come in different flavors, from "you're selfish," "you're self-absorbed," "you don't want responsibility," to "you just hate children," or "you're mentally ill." Jordan Peterson is probably one of the most famous contemporary figures when it comes to such accusations, saying that if you don't want children, you're either deluded or immature. Another thing I've often heard is that you only discover true love and happiness once you have children. People say things like, "the moment I held my baby, everything else seemed insignificant," or "nothing I achieved before becoming a parent compares to this." It's not that I doubt the sincerity of such statements. I'm genuinely happy for people who feel this way about parenthood. But there's also something rather dismissive about these statements. They can make everything and everyone outside the parent-child relationship seem unimportant, while implying that the lives of people without children are somehow less meaningful or complete. Also, a while ago, someone close to me said, "Without children, what's the point of life?" The supposed lack of meaning is often used as an argument against being child-free. Children give life purpose. Family is what life is about. Life is empty without kids, and so forth. Some people even claim that procreation is the purpose of a human being, that nature has made us to reproduce. But as I see it, reproduction is a biological function, while meaning and purpose are human concepts. I've never heard nature telling us what our lives are for. Other arguments include the idea that you owe your parents grandchildren, that you should carry on the family name, or that if your parents had thought the same way, you wouldn't even exist. And on a macro scale, there's the allegation that you're failing society. After all, who will pay taxes? Who will take care of the elderly? In more extreme circles, the pro-birth sentiment becomes explicitly racial or ethno-nationalist. Having children is presented as a duty to preserve one's race or ethnicity. And then there's the argument that children will take care of you and keep you company when you're older. And if you don't have kids, who is going to visit you? It's an understandable concern, but it also doesn't sound like a very selfless reason to have children. There are probably many more arguments and accusations against being child-free, so feel free to share them in a comment. These are simply the ones that come to mind first. What many of them have in common is the implication that child-free people are, in one way or another, doing something wrong. I won't address each of these arguments one by one. Instead, I'll share my own reasons for not having children and return to some of them where relevant. Here we go. The first is that I don't think I would make a good father. From my observations, I've come to believe that not everyone is fit to be a parent. Unfortunately, many people unfit for parenting have children. I don't want to be one of those people. And to help you understand why, I have to tell you a bit about myself. As of today, I'm 42. I have struggled with depression and anxiety for much of my life, along with years of heavy drinking, sometimes passing out on the street or waking up in the bushes. Even though I hardly drink these days and I'm more stable than before, I still have this vulnerability regarding my mental health. It takes effort to manage it, and the mismanagement could cause me to spiral. Some of this probably goes back to a turbulent and traumatic childhood. There's also a history of trauma on my father's side of the family. 2 family members have been diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, many have struggled with depression and mood swings, and one of my aunts took her own life. I know what it's like to grow up with parents who are struggling themselves, who probably needed psychological help, and who often couldn't handle the demands of parenting. It can create an unsafe, unstable, and sometimes hostile environment for a child. I also don't cope well with stress. I'm highly sensitive and introverted, and social interaction tends to drain my energy. A psychologist once suggested that I might also have some autistic traits, although I've never been formally assessed. And since COVID, I've become more sensitive to crowds, and I've also been more prone to insomnia. Knowing who I am and being aware of my limitations, I just don't see myself taking on this heavy role as a parent. Given how much I've struggled with my mental health and how fragile that balance can still be at times, I think being a father would simply be too much for me. I don't think I could handle it very well. The idea alone already tires me. It brings me no joy or excitement, unlike many aspiring parents who can't wait to have children and are over the moon when it finally happens. I don't want any hypothetical children of mine to suffer because of the baggage and vulnerabilities I carry with me. And that's not even getting into my genetics, which, frankly, I'm not particularly eager to pass on. I also don't want to risk adding more suffering to my own life. Sure, parenthood can be deeply fulfilling, but for some people, the constant demands can lead to exhaustion, chronic stress, and declining mental health. Now, to address some of the accusations we have explored earlier. Yes, in a sense, I don't want the responsibility, but that's largely because of my struggles with mental health. I don't consider myself selfish, nor do I hate children. If anything, I think it would be more selfish to have children, despite knowing you may not be able to handle the demands of parenting and might become resentful as a result. I don't consider myself deluded or immature either, as Jordan Peterson suggests. On the contrary, I think I see quite clearly why parenthood is probably not for me. and recognizing your own limitations can itself be a sign of maturity. Let's go to the next reason. I don't need children to find purpose in life. I often feel like I need 2 lifetimes, probably more, to create everything I want to create and learn everything I want to know about the world. Ever since childhood, I've been blessed or cursed, depending on how you look at it, with an insatiable curiosity. The downside is that I've often jumped from project to project, from one interest to another. But when I find something that sticks, I can spend years immersing myself in it. My creative exploration of philosophy is just one example. There are many more things I would love to learn, explore, and create. Why would I add children to the mix when I'm already struggling to choose from countless things I would rather spend my time doing than being a parent? To give life meaning, some would say. Recently arrested influencer Andrew Tate said in an interview that a life without children is pointless, much like my friend who asked, "Without children, what's the point?" These are pretty definitive statements to make. Having children can be profoundly meaningful for many, but is having children the meaning of life? I think that's much harder to defend. Again, a biological function isn't the same as meaning, regardless of how vital or important that function may be. As far as we know, the meaning of life is a human concept. Nature doesn't appear to assign meaning or purpose to living things. We observe processes and functions in nature, but nature doesn't tell us what any of it is all for. We could take the existentialist view that we come into existence without a predetermined purpose. As Sartre famously put it, existence precedes essence. What we make of the empty canvas of our lives is largely up to us. Of course, reproduction is important. It allows our species to continue. But when it comes to meaning, don't we also have these distinctly human capacities for thinking, creating, learning, experiencing the world, and shaping our lives in our own unique ways? If anything, wouldn't it make just as much sense to look for meaning in these human capacities, rather than reduce the meaning of life to reproduction, something we share with nearly all living organisms, from cattle to cockroaches? I've never desired children as a source of purpose. I've simply got too many things going on. If anything, one of my concerns is that parenthood would take me away from what I want my life to be about. Am I thus self-absorbed if I want to focus on my interests and spend my days on creative pursuits? I don't know. I mean, I'm deeply interested in the world around me, and I engage with it through creativity, reading, podcasts, travel, and simply thinking. Sure, to some extent, that's self-serving, but wanting to pass on one's genes, to have children to give one's life purpose, or to use parenthood to fill a void can be just as self-serving in its own way. Does my life feel empty without kids? I sometimes feel empty, usually when my mood isn't great. But even in those moments, I've never thought that having a child would somehow fill that emptiness. But then, am I not failing society? I don't think that's the case. Sure, I'm not contributing to population growth, but I still work, pay taxes, create useful content, write books, help others, and generally try not to be a nuisance to my environment. I would argue that a child-free person who contributes positively may actually do more good than a parent who neglects their responsibilities and leaves society to clean up the mess. I also don't feel it's my purpose to preserve my race. I'm mixed race anyway, so I'm doing ethno-nationalists a favor by not passing on my genes. In that sense, I've already done my part for the ethno-state. Still, despite what I consider two solid reasons not to have kids, I must admit that sometimes when I see my siblings and cousins having children, for example, I'm suddenly struck by the fear that maybe I'm missing something. It's the fear of future regret, a vision of an older, lonelier version of myself who finally realizes that he wanted children after all. Well, let's chop his head off. I would rather regret not having children than regret having them. Regret is a horrible feeling. It can linger for years, all the way to the grave. Research suggests that short-term regret is often about what we did, while long-term regret is more often about what we didn't do. So, reaching old age and realizing that you wanted children after all could be deeply painful. Who wants to end up as some crazy, resentful cat lady or creepy old bachelor, spending his days playing with model trains in the attic? Although, to be fair, model trains are quite cool. Who wants to see all those happy families walking around, living, laughing, and loving, while you're left on the outside looking in, thinking, this could have been me. I wish I had kids after all. Regretting never having had kids can be a bitter pill to swallow, especially when you hear parents saying things like, I never knew true love until I had children. Although my first thought is usually, how can I miss what I've never experienced? However, there's another kind of regret that, in my opinion, is far more troubling. Regretting having children. I think we're dealing with a taboo here, a blind spot, something that only a few people dare to speak about publicly, as they're afraid to be denounced because of it. But thanks to the internet, a significant number of people have been opening up, largely anonymously, about their regret over having children. With 71,000 weekly visitors as of today, the subreddit Regretful Parents has become a significant online space for people who feel they shouldn't have become parents, as well as for those interested in the topic. Many of the stories I found there were alarming, some heartbreaking. People report a variety of reasons for regretting having children, ranging from mental health problems and loss of freedom to financial difficulties, lack of support, sleep deprivation, and unequal parenting. I feel a slight increase in anxiety when going through these posts, especially considering my own limitations and what I value in life. I strongly suspect having children would affect me all across the board in ways that make regret of having children a plausible outcome. I can only imagine how painful it must be to regret having children, not just for the parent, but for the child as well. My father told me several times that he never wanted me and that I only exist because my mother lied about being on birth control. Even though he also said he was glad I was here in the end, those words still hurt. They left me with the feeling that I had always been a burden to him, which may also explain why he was so often angry with me, even when I had no idea what I had done wrong. As far as I'm concerned, I don't ever want to put my hypothetical child through the experience of being unwanted or being the object of regret. I think children can sense when they're unwanted, even when a parent tries hard not to show it. It leaves a wound in both the parent and the child. I'm willing to risk regretting not having children. I'm far less willing to risk regretting having them. If I regret not having children, I'm the only one who has to bear that pain. That seems fair to me, since I'm the one responsible for the decision. But if I regret having children, I'm no longer the only one who bears the consequences. My children and their mother would have to live with them too. Considering these two possible outcomes, together with who I am, I believe that risking the regret of not having children is the more ethical choice for me. Hence, I would rather regret not having children than regret having them. So, these are the main reasons why I don't want kids. I have other concerns as well, especially about the current state of the world and the nature of existence itself. But that's a story for another time. I hope you found these thoughts useful. If you're child-free yourself, feel free to share what led you to that choice. And if you're critical of people who choose not to have children, I would be interested to hear why. Thanks for watching.